Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time we're exploring a novel, The Lost Bookshop by Evie
Oh,
Woods.
very cool.
We've got excerpts from the book itself,
Nice.
and we're going to really try to follow the paths of these three characters, Opaline, Martha, and Henry, and see how their lives intertwine through books and hidden truths.
Yeah, the way this book uses the bookshop itself is just fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just a setting, is it?
Right.
It's like a character
It really is.
that kind of drives the whole story.
Yeah, and connects these three separate stories.
Yeah, across time.
Yeah, across time. So we first meet Opaline in the 1920s in Paris,
Ooh, la la.
and she's trying to escape a forced marriage.
Oh, wow.
She finds this bookshop, which is just this place where she can just breathe and be herself.
I love that idea, and it's interesting because she really uses books
Yeah.
as a way to like push back against all this pressure
Yeah.
from society, and especially her brother,
Lyndon. Yeah.
Lyndon. Yeah, he wants to control her life.
Right.
But she finds so much freedom in literature.
Yeah. And it's like she gets lost in it in a good way,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
Lost in the beauty of it all.
Right. And it's almost like these books give her a guide for her new independence.
Right.
So she starts working at Shakespeare and Company.
Oh, wow.
She meets this mysterious man named Armand.
Ooh.
They have this whirlwind romance,
Okay.
but then she just vanishes.
What?
And that's kind of this mystery that carries through the whole novel.
Oh, wow. So that's where Martha comes in.
Yeah.
Present day Dublin.
Right.
She's going to that same bookshop,
Yeah,
but she's escaping an abusive relationship.
exactly.
I mean, how interesting is that?
Yeah, and it's like both of them are running
Yeah.
from something, seeking refuge.
Yeah. They find peace
In books.
in books. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's this deeper connection, these
Uh.
lines of text that appear on her back.
Oh, yeah.
It's wild.
Like secrets from the past.
Yes. And it seems like they're all about Opaline.
Oh, that's so cool.
So it's like this mystery waiting to be revealed.
Yeah.
And that's where Henry walks in.
Okay.
He's a book dealer,
Okay.
and he's heard rumors of this lost bookshop
A lost bookshop?
and possibly a connection to Emily Bronte,
Whoa.
which for a book lover like him,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah, like a moth to a flame.
totally. So he gets caught up in this search for the truth, and he also meets Martha.
So three characters,
Yes.
all lost in their own ways,
Yeah.
but finding something in this bookshop,
Finding each other.
finding themselves.
Yeah, it's like this crossroads.
Totally. And I love the idea that this lost bookshop, it's like a metaphor for something deeper.
Yeah, like a lost part of ourselves.
Exactly.
Well,
Like we're all searching for something.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So if the bookshop is a metaphor, then what are the books themselves?
Right.
What do they represent?
Yeah. And how do they guide these characters?
Right, because it really makes you think about the power of stories,
Oh, for sure.
not just for entertainment, but
Yeah.
how they can really affect us.
Impact our lives.
Yeah,
Connect us.
across time. Yeah. And even reveal things about ourselves that we maybe didn't know.
Absolutely.
So, okay, we've got these characters all connected to this very special bookshop.
Right. And their stories are so specific,
Yeah.
but they also feel so universal.
Yeah.
You know, longing, searching for meaning.
It's very human.
It is. And I think that's what's so interesting about Opaline's story.
Yeah.
It's the 1920s, right?
Yeah.
Women's voices weren't really heard.
Not as much. No.
So it's not just a love story. It's a woman fighting for her right to exist
Exactly.
on her own terms.
I love that.
And Martha's story, oh my gosh.
Felt relevant.
It's so relevant because we're still dealing with abusive relationships.
All the time.
All the time. And she's carrying so much pain.
Unseen wounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Henry, even though he's the successful book dealer,
Right.
I feel like he's lost too.
I think you're right.
He's looking for something more.
More than just the books.
Yes, exactly. And maybe he thinks the bookshop or Martha can help him find it.
Yeah. They each have a piece of the puzzle. Yeah. And the bookshop is where it all comes together.
But we've got so many questions.
Oh, yeah.
What happened to Opaline?
Right.
What secrets are in the bookshop?
What about those lines on Martha's back?
Right.
Yeah, so many questions.
We've got a lot to uncover.
We're just getting started.
I'm excited.
Me too. We'll be back in a flash with part 2 to delve even deeper into The Lost Bookshop.
Okay, so one thing that really jumps out at me about The Lost Bookshop is how it uses real historical figures and literary works.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just random name dropping. It's
Right.
like they actually add something to the story.
Yeah, it's like little Easter eggs for book lovers.
Oh, totally.
I mean, there's Bram Stoker, the Bronte sisters,
Yeah.
D.H. Lawrence, Sylvia Beach.
Yeah, even Sally Rooney.
I know. It's like I need a whole other notebook
I know,
to
right?
keep track of all these books.
Yeah, and it's not just like they're mentioned.
Yeah.
It's like they're woven into the story.
Right, like Dracula, for example, with Opaline.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's not just some gothic element.
Right, it's like,
It's reflecting her fear,
yeah, she's afraid of being controlled.
just like the characters in the book.
Exactly.
It adds this whole other level to her story.
It's not just about escaping a marriage.
Right.
It's about her fighting for freedom,
Totally.
for her right to choose.
And then there's that inscription in Wuthering Heights that Martha finds.
Oh, yeah, the one about Martha Brown.
Yes, the Bronte housekeeper.
It makes you think about all these hidden stories.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even minor characters have lives.
And we don't always hear about them.
Right. Whose stories get told and whose get forgotten.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what you think about the specific books that each character is drawn to.
Ooh, yeah, that's interesting.
Opaline loves books about adventurous women.
Yeah, the wild Irish girl.
Right. And Martha seems to gravitate toward stories of resilience and self-discovery.
Like Pride and Prejudice.
Exactly. And Henry, he's all about the thrill of the chase.
Oh, yeah, he wants those lost treasures.
Like Emily Bronte's missing manuscript.
Yeah.
It's like their book choices tell us about them.
Yeah, like a mirror.
Totally. It shows what they're searching for.
Yeah. Opaline wants freedom. Martha wants empowerment.
And Henry wants...
Connection, yeah, and purpose.
It reminds me of that scene in the pub where Henry tells Martha about those treasure hunts with his dad.
Oh, yeah, going to car boot sales.
Yeah. It's such a small detail, but it tells us so much.
Totally. It shows us why he loves books.
He needs to connect with something meaningful.
Yeah, his dad loved war memorabilia, but
Yeah.
Henry found something different
He found stories.
in those old
It
books.
shows how we all value different things.
Right. What's treasure to one person,
Might be junk to another.
right? It's about finding what sparks your passion.
And books do that for both of them.
Yeah, their connection really grows.
Over their shared love of literature.
Yeah, they open up to each other.
Become more vulnerable
Yeah, and then we find out Henry's engaged.
to Isabel.
Yeah, it's like a bomb dropped.
It really complicates
Oh,
things.
yeah, big time.
Do they follow their hearts?
Right.
Or do they play it safe?
It's a tough choice.
Passion versus practicality.
It makes you think about your own ideas about love.
Oh, for sure. Like, is there only one right way to be with someone?
And can you truly love someone while you're still hurting?
From the past.
Yeah, it's messy.
It is. And then we learn what really happened to Opaline,
Right. Her
Right.
brother had her committed.
to St. Agnes's Asylum.
It's heartbreaking.
It's awful. It shows how women's voices were silenced.
Especially back then.
Exactly. It wasn't just Lyndon. It was a whole system
Trying to control women.
who didn't fit in.
So it's not just a romance.
Right.
It's about women fighting for their right to exist.
Powerful stuff.
It is, and the story's not over yet.
No. There are hints that there's more to uncover.
Yeah, like a hidden truth.
Connecting her to Martha.
Across time.
Those lines on Martha's back.
The lost manuscripts.
It's like the past is trying to tell us something.
Yeah, but we don't have the whole message.
Not yet. And then there's that parallel with Emily Bronte's Lost Manuscript.
Yeah. Oh, right. Both of them are trying to uncover something hidden.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder who gets to decide what's valuable.
Ooh, good question.
Is it the academics and collectors or...
Or the people who connect with the stories.
Right, like Henry wants to find the manuscript.
Yeah.
But Martha is starting to realize her own story is important too.
It's like the book is asking us how we lose and find ourselves.
Yeah, not just through love, but through history and literature.
And the stories that make us who we are.
There's so much to think about here. So before we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
what's standing out to you about the way these storylines are coming together?
It's really interesting how this idea of lost runs through the whole book.
Yeah.
Lost books, love's lost identities.
Yeah, like everyone is trying to find their way back to something.
Like they're in a maze of their own past.
Yeah, and the word lost, it's like it's hanging over everything.
Right,
Opaline is literally lost when she's sent to the asylum
right.
and then lost again inside those walls
And Martha, she doesn't know who she is anymore.
after leaving her husband.
Yeah, she's adrift.
And even Henry, he's got all this success
But he's still searching.
for something more.
Yeah, like a missing piece.
And maybe he thinks he'll find it in that lost manuscript.
Or maybe in Martha.
Maybe. And the bookshop is like the center of it all,
Yeah, the place where lost things come together.
where the search begins.
Right.
It's where Opaline found purpose,
Yeah.
where Martha finds a connection,
Just something bigger.
and where Henry might just find what he's looking for.
And speaking of searching,
We can't forget about Henry's fiancée.
Isabel, right?
It really throws a wrench into things.
For sure.
It shows how messy love can be.
Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes your heart wants what it wants.
Even if it doesn't make sense.
Even if it's complicated.
Henry's drawn to Martha.
But he's got this obligation to Isabel.
And Martha,
She's hesitant,
after what she's been through.
but the chemistry between them is undeniable.
That scene in the kitchen,
Oh, my God.
when they finally admit their feelings.
So intense.
It's like this release.
But you know it's not going to be easy.
Right, there's trouble ahead.
It shows that love isn't always simple.
Sometimes it forces you to make hard choices.
And face the consequences.
And the consequences definitely come when Shane shows up.
Martha's ex-husband
Yeah, he threatens her.
brings back all those fears
It ends tragically.
with Shane's death.
It's a lot for Martha to deal with.
Guilt, grief, relief
It's that fear that it's not really over.
that the violence could happen again.
It shows that escaping an abusive relationship,
Doesn't mean escaping the trauma.
the scars are still there.
But Martha finds support from Madame Bowden.
She's such a fascinating character.
I know she's a little mysterious,
Unpredictable.
but she helps Martha.
Yeah, gives her guidance.
Protects her
Like a fairy godmother.
with a dark side.
Yeah, and the fact that she adopted her daughter,
Makes you wonder about her own past.
her own experiences with loss.
And while all this is happening, we finally learn what happened to Opaline.
Through those asylum records.
It's hard to read about,
How she was mistreated.
silenced,
It's a reminder of how society treated women back then.
especially women who are different.
But it also shows how strong Opaline is.
She never gives up,
She finds comfort in books,
and she escapes.
finds her way back to the bookshop.
It's like a moment of triumph,
It shows that hope can survive.
even in the darkest times.
But the book doesn't tie everything up neatly.
No, both Opaline and Martha,
They carry their scars.
and they're still healing.
Right, and just when you think you know everything
There's that twist.
about Opaline's son
Who was taken from her?
and how he might be connected to Madame Bowden's daughter.
It brings everything together,
It's like all these separate threads.
woven into one tapestry.
It shows how connected we all are,
How the past affects the present.
even when we don't realize it.
So we've got these interwoven stories.
This mysterious bookshop.
Lost love's hidden truths.
A little bit of the supernatural, even.
It's been quite a ride.
It has.
But as we wrap up, I keep thinking about the title.
The Lost Bookshop.
What do you think it really means?
It could be a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
On one level, it's that actual bookshop.
Where everyone meets.
But it's also about searching for what we've lost.
Like a lost part of ourselves?
A lost love, a lost connection.
Maybe it's even about the stories we tell ourselves.
The stories that shape our lives.
The Lost Bookshop could be all those hidden stories,
The voices that haven't been heard.
waiting to be discovered.
It's about the power of stories.
To heal and inspire.
To remind us that we're not alone.
And it's about that need to find those missing pieces.
And books in love. In ourselves.
I love that. So if you're looking for a book,
That will stay with you.
a good mystery, a little romance,
The Lost Bookshop is for you.
you might just find yourself in its pages.
That's all for this deep dive into The Lost Bookshop.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
Happy reading.